What's up, guys? Welcome to Knocks Out Comics, where I talk all things comics and manga. I'm Jay, and today I'm going to be continuing on from the first volume of Grimm Fairy Tales with the second volume. This is going to be split into two videos as I'm going to be a little more detailed because this is where the main story really picks up. We start off with a woman named Terry, who's tending to her sick stepdaughter Stephanie. Afterwards, Terry goes to begin making lunch, when it's revealed that she's been poisoning Stephanie. The doorbell rings and it's Sella. At this point, if you haven't caught on by now, this is going to be a regular thing. Sella just pops up into people's lives almost at random and gives them little life lessons, and if they don't learn anything, they're screwed. Sella tells Terry that she's Stephanie's English teacher, there to drop off a book to her. She also asks to have Stephanie read Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and suggests that Terry read it as well before leaving. And of course, Terry starts reading, and it's a slightly different version where the evil queen still sends the huntsman after Snow White and then gives her a poison apple when the huntsman failed. The seven dwarfs are reimagined as consumers of evil and befriend Snow White when they see that she's pure of heart. After Snow White eats the poison apple, she dies. The seven dwarfs decide to avenge her, and in the end they eat the queen alive. We then flash back to Terry. She comments on the story being ridiculous. Then in true horror movie fashion, she hears giggling coming from the basement, and being the special moron she is, she goes to investigate. She's almost immediately attacked by the seven dwarfs from the story. The issue ends with Terry in a mental hospital where nurses are talking about her. We learn that Stephanie is better now, and in the final panel, we see Terry repeating over and over, "fairest of them all." Then we're introduced to Jim, a guy who's plotting a drug deal. I don't agree with him, but in his defense, he sees this as the only way to provide his family with a better future. However, his wife is against it and believes there are other ways to take care of his family. I agree with his wife. He should listen to her more. After a semi-heated argument, he leaves telling her that he loves her. While on the street, he encounters a fellow drug dealer who threatens him and his family if Jim is selling on his turf. Jim assures him that he's not and proceeds to meet his dealer, Manny. But instead, there's Sella. She tells him that Manny decided to take some time off, or she killed him. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by the way she keeps popping up. She tells Jim that she's taken over for Manny. Jim anxiously asks where the product is, and surprise, instead of drugs, it's her book. Sella tells him that he's putting the lives of his family and himself at risk and he's running out of time, but can't see it because he's so consumed by greed. Jim is then placed in the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, where he buys beans from a neighbor. Then a magic beanstalk grows to a castle above the clouds. When he gets there, he finds an angry giant, as well as a great deal of riches that he habitually steals. But the last time he steals, the giant chases him to his home and falls, crushing Jack's house and his family below. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed at this, but not because of the giant crushing Jack's family, but just the idea of a giant falling. Like, could you imagine just sitting there in your house, thinking all is well in the world, and then you realize you actually have to worry about a random giant falling on your house? Clearly, Jim understands this because this snaps him back to reality. He's asked what happened, and Sella replies he was given a second chance. It's up to him to listen to her. She goes on to tell him that there are many things in life that you can't put a price on, and we end with Jim leaving behind the drugs and returning home to his family. Next, we open with Sella's narration. She says that everyone thinks they deserve a second chance. Make a mistake, learn your lesson, and move on as if the world hasn't noticed. And it's been left up to her to teach this lesson. We're then introduced to a woman who is apparently married to a man named Bruce, but just for his money, though it's implied that he abuses her. So she, along with her lover Dan, plan to kill him and make off with his money, because simply leaving wasn't an option apparently. Sella leaves her book and the girl tries to give it back, but she begins to read Goldilocks and the Three Bears. The story is radically different and is not the classic fairy tale, as Goldilocks is being wooed by an old man who's said to be a wizard while being in love with a man her own age. Then Goldilocks and her lover plan to infiltrate the old man's home and kill him. The bears appear in this story, except they are shown as statues that defend the house. Goldilocks enters his home by finally accepting his offer, and when he goes to sleep, she lets her lover in, who goes to the room and kills the old man. As they try to escape, they're attacked by the bear statues that have now come to life. We flash back and the girl has a change of heart, and she tries to call Dan to stop their plot, but he doesn't answer. She rushes home where she finds not only Bruce murdered, but Dan as well, only Dan has claw marks all over his body. Then she's attacked and killed by a bear as Sulla concludes her narration, and the issue, saying for every act committed, there are consequences that must be faced. Consequences that can be dire. She goes on to say that while everyone thinks they deserve a second chance, not everyone gets one. Some lessons are just learned too late. And that wraps up the first half of this volume. I'll be continuing on Sunday with the next installment. If you like this video and want to hear the rest, please like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell. Talk to me in the comments. I'll see you guys next time.